I always believed success would feel warm, like sunlight breaking through winter clouds. But the day I sold my patent for $17 million, the air in the boardroom felt strangely cold, as if someone invisible had exhaled frost across the table. Maybe it was the pressure, or maybe it was the first sign that my life was about to unravel in ways I never saw coming. The men in tailored suits kept congratulating themselves more than me. That's the thing about corporate sharks. They praise the innovator, but they toast themselves. Still, I smiled, signed my name, and accepted the wire transfer confirmation they slid across the glass table. $17 million. My hands trembled, not with greed, but relief. Because behind that check was 10 years of sacrifice. 10 years of being overlooked. 10 years of hearing my husband, Ethan, say things like, "You're wasting your time on that project. Nobody is going to buy something invented in your little garage lab. Focus on being a good wife. Let real professionals handle innovation." But the world doesn't run on opinions. It runs on proof. And I had finally proved every doubt wrong. I walked out of the boardroom feeling taller, lighter. My patent, my baby, had become a revolutionary microcell energy stabilizer used in renewable grids nationwide. And now, finally, I could breathe. Finally, the world saw a future in me that my own husband never did. I should have felt victorious, triumphant, unstoppable. Instead, when I stepped into the parking lot with the afternoon sun on my face, a strange unease slid over me like a shadow, because I knew Ethan would never celebrate this with me. He would smile, he would kiss my forehead, he would pretend pride, but deep down, he would hate that I succeeded without him. I drove home slowly, letting the wind settle my nerves. Ethan had always been charming, the kind of man who walked into a room and made people lean closer. A finance professional with a polished smile and a voice smooth enough to convince bankers to hand him millions. But underneath that charm, there was a vein of insecurity he protected like a wounded animal. And every time I grew, he shrank. When I pulled into our driveway, he stepped out with a glass of wine in his hand. "You're home early," he said, smiling too wide. "Deal closed," I said, stepping out of the car. His eyebrows lifted. "Already? So fast?" I nodded. "And?" he asked. "They bought it," I whispered. 17 million. His hands didn't smile at his eyes. "Well, congratulations," he said slowly, as if tasting a sour fruit. "You must feel proud." Before I could answer, he pressed the wine glass into my hand. "To your success," he said. Our fingers touched, and his hand felt strangely cold. I didn't drink it. Inside, while he fixed dinner, I stood at the kitchen counter, staring at the wine glass. The red liquid swirled gently, almost hypnotic. I felt a sudden chill, a sudden sense that something wasn't right. I set the glass down. Later that night, I found him quietly on the phone in his office. "Of course she'll sign the funds over." "No, she trusts me. She always has." When he saw me, he jumped. "This isn't what it sounds like." Maybe that was true. Or maybe it was the first thread of a trap unraveling. But I ignored it. Because I wanted peace. I wanted to believe my marriage would grow with my success, not crumble under it. I would soon learn I was wrong. Very wrong. Because in less than 48 hours, I would watch the man I married, the man who shared my bed, my home, my dreams, slowly tilt a bottle at my glass, believing I wasn't watching. And that moment would change everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something about Ethan's tone on the phone kept replaying in my mind, like a glitching record. So I went downstairs for water, barefoot, silent. That's when I saw it. Ethan stood at the kitchen counter, back turned, shoulders tense. He opened the small cobalt blue vial I had never seen before, a vial he kept hidden behind the coffee grinder. He poured a few drops into my wine glass. I froze. My heart slammed into my ribs, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. The air thickened around me, heavy, suffocating. A cold wave washed down my spine. He swirled the glass, watched the poison dissolve, smiled. Not the smile of a husband, the smile of a man who had just solved a problem. I didn't move, couldn't move. I felt trapped inside my own body, like my soul had stepped outside to witness something I was never meant to see. He carried the glass toward the dining table, humming softly, almost cheerfully. "Babe, still awake? I poured us another drink. Let's celebrate properly." Celebrate my death. I slipped behind the doorway, heart in my throat. Every instinct screamed to run, but I forced myself to remain still. He called again, voice smooth, persuasive, the voice he used when convincing investors to trust him. "Come on, sweetheart, just one drink." I didn't respond. After a few moments, he sighed, annoyed. He took a sip from his glass, then pushed my poisoned one to my usual seat. He sat across from it, staring at the untouched poison like a waiting predator. I slipped upstairs silently and locked the bedroom door with shaking hands. I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I planned. Because something in me, something that had stayed quiet for years, finally woke up. He wanted my money, my patent payout, my future. But he wasn't going to get any of it. I would. And I would make sure he paid for every drop he tried to slip into my life. The next morning, I acted normal, smiled, kissed him, even thanked him for celebrating. He believed it. But I had already started building a file, the kind that buries a man legally, financially, socially. I was going to destroy him. Not with poison, with truth. The morning after watching Ethan poison my wine, I walked into the kitchen exactly as I always did, hair tied messy, robe wrapped tight, pretending to be half asleep. He was pouring coffee, humming lightly, the same tune he hummed while slipping death into my glass the night before. "Morning," he said, turning with that deceptively soft smile. "Morning," I echoed, forcing my voice not to waver. I moved toward the counter, careful, controlled, aware of every breath he took. The room smelled like roasted coffee and lies. My eyes flicked to the wine glass still sitting in the sink, the residue of what he intended for me. He didn't know I saw it. He didn't know I recorded him, but he would, soon. "Did you sleep okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Perfectly." He believed it. The confidence in his eyes told me he thought the poison plan was still moving smoothly, that he was one gentle push away from washing his hands of me and my $17 million. But I had something he didn't expect, a brain sharper than his greed. I went upstairs, slipped into my home office, and locked the door. My laptop screen glowed softly in the dim morning light. I opened the file I started the night before, a folder titled Evidence. Inside, I stored a video clip from the security camera above the fridge, capturing him opening the cobalt vial, another clip showing him swirling the poison into my glass the night before, screenshots of messages I had secretly pulled from his cloud backup, conversations with a woman named Valerie, bank transfers he hid from our joint account, a draft of the prenuptial agreement he altered digitally without telling me, and a photo of the vial I had taken when he stepped out to take a phone call. Piece by piece, the truth was becoming a weapon, not a bullet, a blade sharpened with precision. Next, I called the person Ethan despised most, my attorney. "Hello?" she answered. "It's time," I whispered. There was silence. Then a sigh of understanding. She said, "I knew this day would come." "How bad?" "Attempted murder," I said softly. "I have proof." Her tone changed instantly, sharpening into focus. "Send me everything." I did. Every file, every clip, every screenshot. She responded within minutes. "Don't confront him. Don't accuse him. Let him think you're naive for now. We need him to stay predictable." Predictable? Yes. Ethan was predictable in the way all arrogant men are. He believed he was smarter than the woman he married. He believed charm was intelligence. He believed entitlement was strategy. He believed I was still the quiet wife, too busy tinkering with inventions to notice what he was becoming. But that woman was dead, and I had watched the moment he killed her. Later that day, Ethan suggested we go out to dinner. "Just us," he said, "to celebrate." I knew what that meant. Another opportunity to poison me, somewhere public, somewhere he could blame the restaurant, somewhere he could cry over my body and pretend to be the grieving husband. I agreed. But I brought a small micro camera clipped under my dress strap, a device I created myself during my early experiments. He didn't know it existed. He didn't even know I patented it quietly years ago. We drove to a dim-lit Italian restaurant, the kind with heavy red curtains and violin music that tries too hard. He ordered wine immediately, choosing a bottle far more expensive than we ever bought. Perfect. He poured the wine at the table, and I watched carefully. One glass he kept near him, one glass he slid toward me, but angled oddly as if protecting the rim from my view. He said, "I'll be right back, just going to wash my hands." He took his glass with him. He left mine on the table. And that told me everything. While he was gone, I leaned forward. The micro camera recorded as I slid my fingertip inside the rim of the glass. It came back coated with a thin, oily layer. Poison. Not enough to kill instantly, enough to blame on a bad reaction, a contaminated bottle, or alcohol sensitivity. This man had planned my death with detail. I sat back, calm, composed. When he returned, he lifted his glass. "Cheers," he said. "Cheers," I whispered, lifting mine but not drinking. He noticed. His smile faltered. "You're not going to drink?" he asked. "Not yet," I said sweetly. "I want to savor the moment." He watched the glass like a gambler watches dice. He needed me to drink, but he didn't push. Not yet. And that was his fatal mistake. Because that night, as he slept beside me, dreaming of a future he believed was secured, the police were reviewing the footage my lawyers submitted. Detectives were freezing our bank accounts. Prosecutors were studying the bottle he had discarded in the kitchen trash, which my lawyer had collected before he even knew it was missing. He had no idea a legal storm was already forming around our home, a storm that would break in the most catastrophic way possible. Because I wasn't going to the police station. They were coming to him. The next morning, sunlight spilled across our bedroom. Ethan stretched beside me, oblivious, humming the same tune he always did when he believed he was in control. I stared at him. At the man who tried to end me. At the man who pretended to love me while stirring poison into my drink. At the man who believed my success made me disposable. He rolled over, kissed my shoulder, and whispered, "We should talk about transferring some of your payout into our joint investment account today." Ah, there it was. Greed dripping from his voice like oil. I forced a soft smile. "Sure, we can do that." He beamed, unaware that the clock was ticking. Not metaphorically, literally. The police were scheduled to arrive at 9 a.m. sharp. At 8:52, he went downstairs to make breakfast. Bacon, eggs, toast. Fake domestic bliss, his favorite performance. At 8:59, I sat at the dining table, waiting. At 8:59, I heard footsteps outside. At 9 a.m., the doorbell rang. Ethan wiped his hands on a towel and opened the door casually. "Good morning, officers," he said, still smiling. The moment was surreal, like watching a movie you already knew the ending of. Two uniformed officers stood tall, faces stern. "Are you Ethan Clark?" the lead officer asked. "Yes," he said confidently. "You're under arrest for attempted homicide, financial fraud, and evidence tampering." His smile cracked, literally cracked, as if someone had shattered porcelain. "What?" he whispered. "This must be some mistake." But the officer had already pulled out the handcuffs. "You have the right to remain silent." "No, wait, this is insane," Ethan shouted, backing away. I stepped into view then, and the instant he saw me, he understood. "You," he whispered. "You set me up." "No," I said softly. "You set yourself up. I just pressed record." His eyes widened in horror, a mix of betrayal, shock, and the chilling realization that he had underestimated me entirely. The officers moved forward. He resisted. They pinned him. "Baby, please," Ethan cried, struggling. "You don't understand. I would never hurt you. I watched you pour poison into my glass. Twice." His face paled. He looked sick, like a man watching his entire world collapse in slow motion. "It wasn't poison," he croaked. "Lab results confirmed it. The vial, the glass, the wine, all tested." His shoulders slumped. The fight drained out of him. The officers hauled him toward the door. "Please," he whispered, voice thin, desperate. "Don't do this. We can fix this." "There's nothing left to fix." The door closed behind him. The police car engine rumbled. And my house, my life, fell silent. I exhaled for the first time in days. It felt like breathing after drowning. But it wasn't over. Not yet. Because ruin wasn't enough. Justice wasn't enough. The man who tried to poison me would learn what it meant to underestimate a woman who built her empire molecule by molecule. I wasn't done. Not even close.
The trial took 8 months. 8 long, draining, emotionally brutal months. The prosecution built their case using everything I collected. The video footage, the residue from the wine glass, the vial from the trash, his text messages discussing removing obstacles, bank transfers to a private account under a woman's name, his altered financial documents, expert testimony confirming the poison was real and lethal. His defense tried to paint it as an accident, a misunderstanding, a staged setup. But the evidence was iron, unbreakable, and the jury knew it. The verdict came swiftly. Guilty on all charges. He was sentenced to 27 years in federal prison, no parole. When the judge announced it, Ethan turned to me with hollow eyes, eyes that finally understood the weight of what he'd done. "You destroyed my life," he whispered. "No," I said quietly. "You destroyed your own." He was led away, shackled, trembling. But my story didn't end in that courtroom, because freedom after betrayal comes in strange shapes. I spent months rebuilding my life, not financially, but emotionally. I donated a portion of my payout to women in STEM. I invested in startups founded by girls who needed a chance. I traveled. I healed. I lived. And one afternoon, while walking along a sunny pier with a coffee in hand, I realized something. Ethan wanted me dead because he couldn't stand to see me succeed beyond him. But every breath I take, every sunrise I watch, every invention I create, every dollar I earn, every joy I feel is revenge. Not loud revenge, not violent revenge, but the purest revenge of all. I survived the man who tried to erase me, and I built a life he will never touch. My story isn't about poison, or money, or betrayal. It's about power. The quiet, unstoppable power a woman unlocks when she finally understands her worth. And in that understanding, Ethan lost forever.